Welcome to the Fleet Geeks podcast. We're here to help develop fleet and transport professionals. Do you want to progress and develop your skills and knowledge? We promise to bring lively conversation and debate around interesting issues and keep you bang up to date with changes in our awesome industry. The Fleet Geeks are a community of professionals, and if you enjoy the podcast, why not join the discussion for free in the Fleet Geek community over on Facebook? Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Fleet Geeks podcast. For the second week running, I'm joined by Devereux, who is our transport and safety. I've forgotten your title, mate. It's transport consultant and trainer, isn't it?
That's it.
That's the one. I'm so sorry. We've got a few complicated titles. So one of Barry's colleagues has safety in their title, and you're predominantly focused on transport, although you do cover some safety bits, don't you? But yeah, you cover the consultancy and training part of it. So apologies, I'll put my teeth back in and make sure I don't stumble over my words for the rest of the podcast. Baz has joined me today for his second episode. In the last one, we found out more about him, that he's a Stamford Town Councillor, that he's worked for Flagship for 14 months, and some interesting bits around auditing. This time, Baz has prepped 5 top tips for transport managers to focus on compliance. So, without further ado, let's get cracking, Baz. Let's do it. If you don't know who Baz is, please do tune into the previous episode. We're not going to reintroduce him, so to speak. We're just going to get cracking and just, no filler, all killer with Baz. All, 5 top tips. It's all value today. It's all value on today's podcast. So, Baz, what's up? Number 1 of your 5 tips. What we got?
Obviously, with dealing with trucks, the important thing is maintenance, right?
Okay.
So it's making sure you're nailing that maintenance. And I always refer to it as the maintenance cycle.
Okay.
So, and this is how the DVSA likes to look at it. So you are trying to close the circle for maintenance. So I'll give defects as an example. You need your drivers trained to recognise defects. They need to report the defect to the transport manager. That defect needs to be fixed, rectified, signed off to ensure the vehicle's roadworthy. So you are completing the circle all the way around from a non-roadworthy vehicle to roadworthy, signed off and back on the road. So it's making sure that your drivers are doing their daily walk-around checks and reporting defects all time, and you can get all that signed off. That could be a paper version, it could be a digital version, as long as you've got the robust systems and checks in place. Nice. And again, that then follows on to your safety inspection schedule. So making sure you're keeping to your 6 weekly, 8 weekly intervals, don't miss it. It's not good. If you do slip into a week, make sure the vehicle's VOR'd and don't use that vehicle until it's inspected. But then when you've got your inspection sheet back, check the inspection sheet. Make sure there's no driver reportable defects. If there are, challenge your drivers. Why are you missing this? But also checking the maintenance of the inspection sheets and the brake tests for full compliance. And then you can hold your maintenance providers accountable. Make sure they're doing all the checks properly. Make sure they're recording the defect, the details. Sure. Make sure they're signing it off as compliant and roadworthy. Make sure they're doing a proper brake test, because there's obviously been a lot of changes with the guide to maintaining roadworthiness over the last kind of 6 or 7 months, and there's still a lot of confusion out there around brake testing. Yeah,
that was one of Pam's. That was one of Pam's big things around making sure we're getting brake testing right. Yeah. So yeah. Okay, cool. So I love that. I love the way you framed that. It's around closing that loop all the time. So every maintenance. I suppose, what's the right way of putting it? So everything related to maintenance, each individual item, whether it's an inspection, whether it's the MOT, whether it's a defect, whether it's a driver walk-around check, it's about making sure you fully close in that loop all the time. Because as the activity happens, it opens that activity, and then you've got to make sure it's all closed down and signed off and then documented, I suppose.
Yeah, and you can double down on that by doing your gate checks, so you're checking the checks, which is really, really important as well. Awesome. And as you've just said, make sure you write it down, because if it comes to the point where you're having a DVSA inspector come round, or a little intervention with the traffic commissioner, if it ain't written down, you haven't done it.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I was a transport manager and I was asking you, Baz, how often should I do a gate check? What would your advice be for that?
Obviously, there's a lot of variables with number of drivers, number of vehicles you've got, but I'd be out there auditing and carrying out a gate check on your drivers at least, each driver at least once a month, if you can.
Right, okay. Yeah, it makes sense. I think it, like you say, it does depend on the size of the fleet. It depends on how often they're in. But so similarly to you, you're saying sort of one driver a month. The advice I'd normally go for is make sure you're visible in the yard at least once a week. You know, and make it a different day, right? Because all of a sudden, if the drivers all know, oh yeah, here's Baz, he does his Monday morning gate checks, you know, it sort of spoils the routine, doesn't it? So maybe do one Monday morning one day, maybe do the afternoon another, because, you know, people often think about gate checks being a morning activity, but you can catch people it makes it sound like you're trying to catch them doing something wrong, but you can speak to people when they're coming back in as well, can't you? And you can do a gate check at that point. You can make sure they've properly done their.
And you can also do some remote checks with regard to lead in, lead out reports. Yes, there's no prescribed kind of legal time scale for a walk around check.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of best practice is 10 to 15 minutes. So if you check in your, obviously their taco records for lead in, lead out times, but also particularly if you've got a digital system such as R2C or Convey, it tells you how long the walk around check took.
Yeah,
and if
absolutely.
you've got an average of 2 minutes 32 seconds for your drivers for the month, is that acceptable?
No, absolutely.
I wouldn't say so.
And a lot of yards have got CCTV now as well, so you can do, like you say, you can do that sort of remote piece as well. If for whatever reason, you know, maybe there's a second operating centre and you've got to get between the two, and maybe with time constraints, or maybe you've got people on holiday and things like that, there's always other options to ensure that you maintain good records and things like that. There's always inventive stuff, but I think my bit of advice is always make it a bit of a surprise. Like if you vary your approach, vary the day, then the whole principle of it is that you want to be satisfied that at any point the process is working, and that's the purpose of it, isn't it? Rather than just keeping it part of a routine.
Yeah. Sometimes it's difficult with the kind of the nature of the operations. If you've got trampers who are out all week, it's difficult, and they leave at 3 a.m. on a Monday morning and aren't back till late on Friday. It's kind of difficult to do, but you'll catch them at some point. We use that word again. We don't want to use that.
Yeah, I know. We make it sound like
meet up with them. Yes.
Meet up. Yeah. Okay, cool. So, what's your second item then? What's the second tip?
Well, tip one was all about your vehicles. You've got your drivers.
Okay. Cool.
So it's making sure they're compliant, but also keeping them informed. So compliance around license check-in, driver CPCs, medicals, eyesight tests, annual health declarations, toolbox talks, briefings, and just chats as well.
Yeah,
particularly if you're there, just have a chat.
Good comms.
How you doing, mate? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, good comms. Yeah.
I was at a transport conference last year, and one of the speakers spoke about we talk about the maintenance cycle, but the kind of the driver cycle as well. So the DVSA prescribes that you do your daily walk around checks, you do your 6 weeklies, you do your gate checks and your MOT. So that's all about the vehicle, but sometimes you forget about the soft squidgy bit behind the wheel, which is vitally important as well. So inductions, toolbox talks, kind of appraisals if some drivers don't like that, annual health assessments, but also just checking in to see how they're doing. Coaching,
driver assessments, yeah, absolutely. One of my pet hates, it's interesting it came up there because you mentioned CPC training quite early on, but there's still a lot of operators out there that don't think it's their responsibility to train drivers with CPC, is it?
Yeah.
That's one of my pet hates. That having to convince a transport manager, or normally the transport manager isn't the one that needs convincing. It might be the company director. What's the point in training them? They're just going to leave, and all that sort of. I get those challenges all the time. They're just going to leave, or what's the point? The training's crap, or whatever it may be. And I know I've got a vested interest. So I have got a vested interest in CPC training, and I'm very transparent about it. But at the same time, I think it's wild that you wouldn't take ownership of that.
Yeah, you invest in training for your other people, whether it be health and safety or management training or whatever it may be. So why not invest in training for your drivers? Because ultimately they're they're your company representatives. They're the ones who see your customers on a daily basis. So they're representing you. So if they can be the best drivers they possibly can, then why would you not want to invest in that? And it's 35 hours a year, every 5 years. It's not
it's
a big
only
investment.
a day a year.
Yeah.
It's only a day a year, isn't it? And if you don't think the training's good enough, go and find. There's plenty of good training providers out there. And I'm not just saying only Flagship. Don't just come to Flagship. There are, there are good training companies out there. There is some good driver CPC courses about.
But there are also some bad ones. There's a bit of It's a really tough employment market out there at the moment with kind of the additional charges with NI, employers increases. So operators and just generally the industry are finding it tough. The margins have increased. Customers are squeezing them for rates and things like that. But,
and the tendency is to then pull back on the soft stuff like training and things like that.
A bit of a race to the bottom sometimes. Yeah, absolutely. But you pay for what you get.
You do, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And it's frightening, really. I always harp on about the stack it high, sell it cheap, £30 course merchants, but it's just it's just absolutely wild when you compare it to. I've just had a proposal for some internal training here at Flagship, and someone who's come in for half a day has quoted me £2,500. When you compare that to £30 for a driver CPC course, it shows the difference in calibre of people who are willing to train and do stuff. So.
But the important thing about your drivers, train them. I always like to use the carrot rather than the stick. And that's what the DVSA is looking at now. They'd much rather you try and make your drivers better than always punish them. And you're going to get much better work out of them, aren't you? If you are encouraging them to be better, then it's got to be better for your operations, right?
Makes total sense, mate. Makes total sense. So what's in at numero 3 then? What we've got at 3?
It's all about the data.
Okay.
There are so...
Am I surprised? Baz has gone for data? Go on.
Hi, I'm Shani from Flagship Partners. We're proud to sponsor the Fleet Geeks podcast, your go-to source for all things fleet management. If you're looking for expert advice or high-quality training for your fleet business, make Flagship Partners your first choice. We're also thrilled to announce the launch of our Fleet Academy, designed to support and develop future fleet leaders through expert-led and career-focused training. Our offering includes fully accredited courses such as the Transport Manager CPC training, CPC refresher courses, OLAT training, plus ongoing mentoring, support and professional development beyond the qualification. Our vision is simple: to develop elite fleet professionals who drive excellence across the industry. Let's shape the future of our fleet management together.
Right then, Baz. So, numero 3. What have we got for number 3?
Well, you won't be surprised to hear that my tip number 3 is all about the data.
All
about the detail.
Yeah, I'm not surprised, Baz. Baz and data. Go on then, Baz. Tell us why data is so important.
So, even if you're not using digital systems, which obviously provide their huge amount of data for you, there's a lot of information you can get from your OCRS reports, your MOT, your history on your license on the VOL. So it's making sure you're checking this data. Checking your OCRS score on a monthly basis to make sure you're not getting any prohibitions or you haven't had a failed MOT that you don't know about, which can quite easily happen with maintenance providers.
And does regularly.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's then you can you monitor your compliance, you can track your trends, and ensure that you are trying to be as compliant as possible. And then use that data. It's not just about the numbers. Use that data to try and improve your operations. So.
Sure, yeah. And actually, interestingly, the OTC can see how often you access those OCRS reports as well.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I believe so, yeah. I'm fairly confident. So, they can see how often that's monitored. So they'll be able to see, they can see you logging in. They've got records of you logging in, what you're accessing, what you're looking at. So, there's plenty of intel.
That's really interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
so tell some operators.
Plenty of intel, right? So I think it's really important. And like you say, there is devil in the detail. So from a data perspective, I come across it all the time. And if you're listening to this, I don't think I'm probably preaching to the converted, because if you're listening to this podcast, it's going to be stuff you do, right? But there's a whole swathe of people who aren't listening to this podcast that also need to know that, your maintenance provider will have an MOT check, and they'll MOT your vehicle, and there's lots and lots of operators that forget to tell you that your vehicle's failed. When I was sort of face to face with operators, obviously it's been a little while now that I do less of that work, but all the time, I'd audit people and they'd be like, "We didn't know we had a failure. Why haven't they told?" And like they're ringing maintenance providers, shouting at them, and I'm like, "Guys, this happened like 6 months ago. You've got to take some responsibility that this was on the report and you've not done anything about it."
It goes back to the first day I was with Flagship.
Mm-hmm.
I was with you, shadowing you to do an audit on one of our operators.
Yep.
And we went there, kind of relatively new TM in place.
Yep.
And you did the audits. You went on the Vol and checked their MOT history. And bearing in mind, they were on R&M with relatively new Volvos.
Yep.
So you'd expect them to be compliant, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there was an MOT failure which they didn't know about. And it's like, oh. And of course, there's no accountability to maintenance providers. So.
No, exactly. And the maintenance providers shrug their shoulders, and you get them to do an investigation and they send you back a shite investigation that isn't worth the paper it's written on, and not wanting to take any ownership. It tells you a lot about, I think it tells a lot about a maintenance provider when I look at the MOT investigation reports and how much emphasis they've put on that, or how much interest they've spent on it. And then when they turn around, I always find it really interesting. Sorry, I know I'm going off on a tangent here, but I find it really interesting when they go, "Well, you're the only person that makes me do these," and that makes me then think a couple of things. One is they're lying. Two is, what poor standards are you upholding by? Because the issue you've got with that maintenance provider is, if they're doing work with operators who aren't asking these questions, what's the standard of the work they're filling out? Because no one's holding them to account. That is a warning sign for me, and I hear it from transport managers all the time. "Oh, I get told all the time that I'm the only one that asks for an MOT investigation," and I'm like, all the more reason to make sure you're doing one.
Yeah, it's
like all the more reason.
Brake test results, you've got it passes with locks, but you've got a 45% imbalance on your service brake on axle 2. Yes, it technically has passed, but I wouldn't find that acceptable. And as a kind of a best practice maintenance provider, would you want to be sending that out on the road?
Frightening, isn't it? And the maintenance providers and the brake testers themselves, the actual physical equipment, ultimately they're looking for a pass and they're looking for a set of parameters to be hit, which is the braking efficiency. They're not looking at the detail and the data, which is ultimately what the transport manager is accountable for. So
I do spend a lot of time when I'm out on the road supporting my operators, just going through brake test results, just explaining why and what they should be looking for and what they should be challenging, because it is so far up on the DVSA's radar at the moment that it needs to be compliant.
Yeah. No, fair enough, mate. Okay, cool. So data's big, mate. Data is big, not just OCRS and MOT, but also, I suppose, getting into digital systems, right? Like you mentioned about, I know some people will use paper. If you're using paper, I'm okay to advocate for this now, because I can say what I think, really. Why aren't you using digital systems? Why are you still using paper? Jesus, we're in the 21st century. Like, come on, guys, get a grip. We need digital systems for everything, right?
Yeah. We're supporting an operator towards earned recognition at the moment, and they have digital systems. It's great, and they have all these checks and everything, but they're still using paper for walk-around checks.
Yeah.
It's like, okay. And they store them, and they've got filing cabinets and containers full of all these bits of paper, which are going back, and it's like they are moving to a digital system, but it's just like, it makes it easier for you. Just
crazy.
Do it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely crazy. And the big thing, me over time dealing with operators who do paper walk-around checks, and their drivers are out all week, and I'm just like, my God, you're spending so much reliance on the driver letting you know what's going on, and you've no idea how long they're taking to do these checks. There's just so much more, for me, there's so much more risk involved. But
and with the digital walk-around checks, I find it really useful, because I've got an operator I support, and it's a really, really small one, but we've got the digital checks, and we force the drivers to take some photos, which then gives you, if the operator is not seeing the truck, he can see the condition of the truck and how well it's being kept as well, which is good from a kind of you're out there representing the company. It's got your name plastered all down the side. If it's filthy or it's got wheel nut indicators missing, it's so important. So.
And absolutely, quite often it's the family name of the owner is plastered down the side. Like, you want to make sure you're being shown in the best possible light. That's branding, right? Yeah. Okay, cool. What have you got for number 4 then, Baz?
Kind of follows on a little bit from the data, but it's all about detail.
Okay, cool.
But it's about getting your admin right in the background. We've supported operators recently where they've been called to a PI where they haven't updated their O licence details with regards to notifiable changes, so change directors, really prosecutions.
Common, really common, yeah.
So it's making sure that you're doing the checks and updating your admin on a regular basis. So carrying out your monthly audits on that sort of thing. So spot checking your systems.
And that therein lies one of the regular challenges I get, unless there's so often that changes from a governance perspective will happen and they just forget the 28-day rule, they'll forget the requirement to update, and that is always, and that's such an easy thing for the OTC to pick someone up on, because they can literally just cross-reference company's house, and it's just such an easy check. But also, again, it's that thing of, if you're missing the detail with that, what else are you missing?
Yeah, and it's kind of, I guess it's more prevalent with maybe restricted operators where the transport operations is kind of almost incidental to the main part of their business. So you don't have a qualified TM, you have a responsible person who will or may not have any kind of official transport training.
And so how are they to know? How are they even to know? And that's one of my challenges with the restricted on anyway.
Yeah, and so the change directors, death directors, they may have got their operator licence 15 years ago, and they may have read the undertakings or not 15 years ago, but their obligations under operator licence, and then it just doesn't happen. So it's difficult.
Yeah, get yourself a consultant. Get yourself Flagship Partners. Get yourself Baz. Get yourself Baz from Flagship Partners. He'll look at your data and your details.
I need a bit of time to breathe. Give me a chance.
Baz, you're in the office today, mate. You should be out. And I'm joking. I'm joking. But we do work Baz very hard, to be fair. We do work Baz hard.
It's been a really, really busy 6 months, but I'm looking forward to my holiday in 2 weeks, don't get me wrong.
Yeah. I was going to say, it's that time of year, isn't it? And actually, I don't know if you sense this, but we do tend to slow down July and August. I don't know if you're picking that up, but it just tends to, things just tend to pick up. And then just enjoy your holiday, because what happens in September is it's an avalanche again, all the way through till Christmas.
Yeah, if only I had a quiet August with moving house.
That's true. Yeah, you've made a rod for your own back.
Absolutely.
There. Sorry, I can take no responsibility for you choosing to move house, mate. No. Right then, what we got up? Last one, number 5.
If we've kind of referred to it a little bit throughout it, but it's trying to ensure that everybody in your transport operations is engaged, from the drivers to the maintenance people to your transport staff to the directors, making sure you're fostering a culture of compliance. Really important. If you can get the directors and then it cascades down, that's really good. But also engage your drivers, and actually if you can create a positive culture, that makes a massive difference.
Nice. Right, so number 5's around the culture. Love that. Yeah, okay, cool. So yeah, absolutely. Like, essentially, how I always frame culture, people go to me, what do you mean by culture and that sort of stuff? Because it's something we don't really talk about much in the industry, isn't it? And I always say, interestingly, because you use culture, but I use the rotten apple example. If you have a rotten apple in a fruit bowl and then you put a load of fresh fruit in there, what happens? The fresh fruit ends up going rotten as well. And that's basically, if you've got a poor culture in your business and your organisation, if you've got poor practices, if you've got a poor transport manager, if you've got poor drivers, what happens, what human nature is we adapt to the lowest level of performance or lowest level of environmental impact. And therefore, it's really important that you start to tackle those things and that cultural stuff. the transport manager who huffs and rolls his eyes every time that he's expected to go and do something is not going to be a great advocate for your organisation.
No, really good example of this. I was at an operator yesterday, and back end of the day, the drivers were all rocking up. They came into the transport office, downloading their cards, which they're doing on a daily basis now, which is really good. But they were laughing, joking, happy.
Nice.
And they were kind of a bit of healthy competition about the number of infringements they've got, or lack of them actually, in the kind of in 2025. It's like, I've only got one infringement this year, how many have you got? And I lose that in 11 days. So they're kind of really aware of what they're doing and trying to be the best they can, which is really, really nice. The sun was shining, that always helps, but the fact they've got this healthy competition amongst them, really, really good
Love
to see.
That. Okay, cool. Yeah, love that. So what have you seen? This is probably a tricky question, to be fair, but you get around and you see a lot of different operators as part of your role. What as a shining example of good culture, what have you seen some of the good things that transport managers are doing to try and drive that? What are you seeing?
It's engagement is the biggest thing. It's keeping them up to date with the changes that they're looking to make to improve the business. The operator yesterday into a workshop, which was a challenge before, they've moved it forward. They're making it safer. It means that this is being cascaded and communicated to the drivers on a regular basis. So you can hear it in telephone conversations between the planners and the drivers, and just really, really good conversations, and that's the important thing for me. So
quality of and regularity of communication, I think is really important.
Yeah, I'm all about compliance and the detail and the audits and all that kind of thing, but just talking is so important, and people forget about that. So it's a people industry,
human connection.
People buy from people.
Yeah, absolutely. And transport managers, you might be listening and get frustrated with this feedback, but there's a lot of people in the industry who just want to manage from behind a desk, behind a computer, and actually it's very important to just make time, make space, and have a chat with the people.
Yeah, I used to encourage when I was working kind of full time in transport, because some of my guys would just email, text, WhatsApp, whatever it may be, but I would just encourage them, just pick up the phone and speak to somebody. Yeah. You'll get a lot more interaction and actually probably a better result at the end of the day.
Yeah, and Baz, we're all guilty of that.
Oh, 100%,
I look at that and think, oh God, yeah. Sometimes definitely I should have, I look at stuff and I've sent an email and someone's misconstrued it and I think, oh God, I should have definitely picked up the phone. So good feedback for all of us. Awesome. Baz, fantastic podcast.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your 5 top tips. So just to recap, we had maintenance, drivers, data, detail and culture. Love it.
That's it.
Yeah, love it. Fantastic.
Nail all those. You've got
nail
sorted,
that.
right?
Nail that and you've got your transport management system.
Job's easy, isn't it?
Brilliant advice, mate. Yeah, job's easy, yeah. Fantastic. Guys listening, I hope you've enjoyed today's podcast. A big thank you to Baz for joining me and sharing his amazing insights as well. Like I say, you've now met Pam, you've met Baz. If you're not sure and you need a consultant, you know where to come. Pam and Baz are the guys. These guys are absolute experts at what they do. Flagship is experts at what we do, and I really do recommend this. If you're looking for an audit, if you're looking for training, if you're looking for support for your transport operation, we are definitely and should be your first call. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Baz.
Cheers.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please share with your friends and colleagues too. Join us for free on Facebook with the Fleet Geeks community for transport and fleet managers. Fleet Geeks offers ongoing professional development, networking and mentoring too. So get in touch with me, Pete Rushmer, on any social media platform to find out more.